Good morning, everybody. My name is Marcel Sierra, and I'm the Chief Customer Officer at GS1 Australia. I would like to extend a very warm welcome to you all to today's NG-TAG session on 2D barcodes and traceability. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the various lands on which we meet today and any First Nations people that might be with us, and I pay my respects to elders past, present, and emerging. I extend our respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people and recognize their diversity, their ongoing cultures, and their connections to the lands and waters across Australia. And for all those of you that might be new to NG-TAG, and this might potentially be the first meeting, let me start by giving you a brief introduction around the group. So NG-TAG, or the National GS1 Traceability Advisory Group, was established 2 years ago with the objective to support industry and government to adopt traceability systems that are based on open global data standards, with the ultimate objective of ensuring end-to-end interoperability across supply chains. Today, NG-TAG is comprised of over 120 members from over 20 different industry sectors across public and private areas. On behalf of the NG-TAG Steering Committee, we extend our sincere thanks to the organizations that are supporting today's event, including Aspen Australia, Food Innovation Australia Limited, Queensland Clinical Excellence, the Federal Department of Health and Aged Care, New South Wales Department of Primary Industries, the National Association of Testing Authorities, Quantum, and the Australian Food and Grocery Council. So today we have two simple objectives. The first one is to improve your understanding on the magic of 2D barcodes and how they can form the bedrock for traceability across sectors like retail, healthcare, agriculture, product conformity, and how they can also be leveraged by governments. We also today bring you experts in their fields that can share with you their insights that they've gained through their journeys in implementing standard-based traceability systems and 2D barcodes. So let's look at the agenda that we've put together to help us achieve these objectives. We'll start with a brief introduction of 2D barcodes, just so that we can all level set on the topic. And I will then introduce Michael from Aspen Australia, who is a keynote speaker for today, and who will share his learnings and experiences using 2D barcodes for traceability in the pharmaceutical industry. After Michael, Barry, which is the General Manager for Innovation at Food Innovation Australia Limited, and also a member of the NG-TAG Steering Committee, will moderate an expert panel discussion on 2D barcodes in healthcare, agricultural traceability, product conformity, but also as a tool for consumer engagement. Barry will also moderate the Q&A session and will hopefully close the meeting on time by 12:30. So we have a packed agenda, so let's get straight into it. Okay, so today's conversation is focused on 2D barcodes. So we better start by getting on the same page about what 2D barcodes are, and also why should we care about them. But to do this, we'll start by, first of all, looking at 1D barcodes. We can have a look at the next slide. Thank you. So 1D barcodes, or one-dimensional barcodes, are barcodes where basically data is stored only using the horizontal pane, or only basically moving from left to right. And it is the width of the bars and spaces of the barcode where the data is actually kept. And this is what a scanner will decode to extract the number that is embedded on the barcode. These are the barcodes that you're used to seeing across all products in supermarket shelves around the world, and they carry limited amounts of data. So 2D barcodes, on the other hand, are barcodes that actually store data not just horizontally, but also vertically. In other words, using 2 dimensions, and that's where the name 2D barcodes come from. Now, because they can store data across both dimensions, they can carry more data than a 1D barcode in the same area. Traditional laser scanners don't work with 2D barcodes. Instead, we need to use image-based scanners that can take an image of the code and extract the encoded data inside the barcode. And the good news about that is that we all carry an image-based scanner in our pockets today with our smartphones. But there's another really important difference between 1D and 2D. 2D barcodes have in fact paved the way for GS1 standards and web standards to merge. And this fusion is being enabled by a new global standard that we call GS1 Digital Link. In essence, GS1 Digital Link allows the same GS1 standards that have existed for 50 years to be expressed in a structured way using a URL format. Okay, this digital link can then be embedded inside a 2D barcode. So what this does is that it allows point of sale and scan readers to be able to read that URL. And because the data is structured, it can actually find the product identifier or the GTIN. And so that product can then be scanned at point of sale. It also allows the scanner to find other relevant data that might also be embedded inside that URL. For example, a batch number, as you can see on the screen in the example for the URL. It also then, because it's structured in a URL, it allows consumers or anybody in the supply chain to be able to scan that barcode and be linked to information related to that product. Whether it be information about certificates, product information, information about recycling, and much more. So all of this happens from a single 2D barcode on the product label. So let me illustrate this a little bit further. So as you can see, when you scan a 1D barcode, the only thing that you get is you get a GTIN, you get nothing else, for the most part, when the barcode is in a consumer product. And this has been enough for 50 years, but that's no longer the case. When you scan a 2D barcode, you not only get the GTIN, but you get additional traceability data, and it all can be structured in a URL format. So the product can be seamlessly linked to its digital twin and all digital services that might be available for that product. But this is just really a technical explanation of the differences. So the reason why this matters is because of the business processes that 2D barcodes can enable. So things that were not possible in the past using 1D become possible using 2D. For example, tracing individual products based on batch, expiry, or serial numbers becomes a possibility. Automatic price markdowns at point of sale based on a product's expiry date is now possible and is in fact happening already in Australia. Linking consumers to information about product details, instructions, safety, certificates is possible. And also applications around product authentication and anti-counterfeit can be enabled with 2D. So these are just some of the things that 2D barcodes enable. So the question is, why do we care? Why should we care about this? Well, the reason why we care is that these business processes can have a significant impact to your company's bottom line. To give you an example, after implementing 2D barcodes across 1,000 stores nationally, Woolworths has reported significant bottom line savings, including 21% improvement in productivity across some of their key processes. And these improvements come from the initial implementations, which have been focused on quick sell items and meat and poultry items. As Woolworths continues to roll out 2D barcodes across other categories, further benefits will, of course, be realized. But 2D barcodes are point of sale is just one application. We can see that 2D barcodes are being used across a number of different products, whether it be medicines, fresh produce, building and construction, rail, packaged goods, and even across freight and logistics. And they're being used not just on the product itself, but also on cases and pallets to enable more advanced supply chain applications. Even through COVID contact tracing, 2D barcodes and digital link have been leveraged to enable us to check into venues and enable tracing to take place. But the importance of 2D goes well beyond the savings of any one particular company. And this is why we should all care about 2D barcodes. When aggregated across the whole economy, 2D barcodes does in fact deliver social, environmental, and economic benefits for Australia. Things like improving product conformity, traceability, and product recalls increases trust and safety across our supply chains, and this fastest trade. Positive patient identification, better medication management, and greater productivity across hospitals and clinics help to deliver better quality of care. Improved inventory management and packaging information decreases waste, helping us on our journey towards net zero. Improving visibility increases productivity and resilience across our supply chains, helping us to deal better with disruption across the supply chains. And as we head into the Jobs and Skills Summit just over a month from now, we should begin to consider the opportunities to develop new skills and create new jobs that can arise from further digitizing our manufacturing, distribution, retail, and healthcare sectors. With industry adoption and support from government, 2D barcodes can revolutionize commerce and trade today, just like 1D barcodes did back in the 1970s. And this is a very good reason for all of us to care. So hopefully that's giving you a bit of an introduction about 2D barcodes, how they work, and some of the benefits.